Alice in Wonderland is about a girl who goes chasing after a white rabbit and ends up falling down a rabbit hole, and she ends up meeting a variety of characters along the way. The best way to describe this movie is with a quote from Alice that is said in the beginning of the movie. "If I had a world of my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is, because everything would be what it isn't. And contrary-wise, what it is, it wouldn't be, and what it wouldn't be, it would." Alice in Wonderland was my favorite animated Disney movie when I was a kid. It's a film that was originally panned by film critics upon release in 1951. It wasn't until the end of the 60s, in the psychedelic era, that the film started to attract an audience. With each passing decade, the film got more followers, and is now considered to be a cult classic. Alice in Wonderland is surreal, colorful, and trippy. It's a very visual movie, but you don't need to do any kinds of drugs to appreciate it. Alice is voiced by Catherine Beaumont in her first voice acting role. She plays her as curious, dumbfounded, impatient, proper, and even sad when the movie calls for it. She does a great job, despite her not being all that likable of a character. But there isn't really any likable characters, per se. Everyone is pretty mean to Alice, and Alice is annoyed by every situation. But the charm of the movie is in her interactions with all these characters and situations that she's placed into. The Queen of Hearts was voiced by Verna Felton, who previously voiced the fairy godmother in Cinderella. Now those are two polar opposites. The Queen of Hearts was frightening to me as a kid, just in the sense that you never knew when she was going to have an outburst. The Cheshire Cat is another early voice acting role for Sterling Holloway, who later went on to voice Winnie the Pooh. Also two very different roles. The Cheshire Cat would probably be my closest choice to being my favorite character. There's a lot of humor in the movie that's mostly absurd but also slapstick. The movie was nominated for an Oscar for Best Score, and I almost forgot this movie was a musical. It actually has more songs than any other Disney film, but the majority of them are really short, and that's probably why it's overlooked. My favorite songs are probably Painting the Roses Red and the Unbirthday Song, just because those are the ones I always find myself singing to myself. And I also always like The Walrus and the Carpenter. That's one of my favorite scenes. It deviates from Alice's adventures, no pun intended. You see these baby oysters that are so cute, and the walrus and the carpenter sit down at a table to prepare to eat them. It's sad and twisted, if you think about it. Another part that has always been my favorite is when Alice gets lost in Tulgey Wood, and she comes across all these weird characters who are half animal and half tool, like a hammer or a shovel, for instance. The characters and situations are infuriating for Alice, but that's why the movie moves from scene to scene. If Alice liked how things were going, she would probably stay in one place. And of course, she's still trying to look for the white rabbit. Alice in Wonderland is a movie that isn't concerned with plot. Instead, it gives you an array of memorable characters and visuals. And nonsense. It's an experience, and it's still one of my favorites from Disney. Alice in Wonderland gets a thumbs up. If you liked my review, leave a comment below, subscribe, and stay tuned for more rad reviews.